It's Tuesday, March 18th, right now on 12 News at 10.
I'm Bianca Bono in Tempe, where a suspect went on a violent spree from the freeway to a spring training stadium, ending at this popular resort.
The state's first execution since 2022 is now just hours away. I'm Troy Hayden. I'll have the latest from Florence.
I'm Chase Galilei in Phoenix, where things are about to become a little bit more expensive. The city council just approved a sales tax increase. We'll tell you what led to the decision coming up.
In your weather impact forecast, warmer weather is coming. Much warmer. In fact, we could be breaking some records.
12 News at 10 with Mark Curtis and Caribe Divine starts now.
We begin tonight with the latest on some terrifying moments from Tempe today when police say a gunman started shooting on a valley freeway, then ran through a spring training stadium and to a popular resort. Good evening and thanks so much for joining us for 12 News at 10. I'm Caribe Divine.
And I'm Mark Curtis. Here's the good news. Everyone survived. And tonight that suspect is in jail. 12 News journalist Bianca Bono is live outside the Marriott Buttes Resort in Tempe, where this whole thing came to an end. And Bianca, what do we know tonight about the suspect?
Mark, right now Tempe police are not identifying him, but we know he is a 34-year-old man and he is in police custody as officials work to answer the big question, why did this happen? Chaos unfolding in Tempe Tuesday afternoon when a gunman went on a violent spree, starting with gunfire on the I-10 freeway.
Got out of the vehicle, brandished a handgun, and then began to point it at passing vehicles.
Police radio traffic painting a picture of what happened around 2 o'clock when a 34-year-old man got out of his car, started waving a gun, then fired it at a passing vehicle. The driver, unscathed, was able to pull over and call police as the suspect fled.
The suspect then fled on foot, hopping a fence into the Tempe Diablo Stadium, and then ran nearby to the Tempe Buttes. While fleeing, he confronted 2 employees in the resort.
Making his way to the Marriott Phoenix Resort Tempe at the Buttes near 48th Street and Broadway, ordering the 2 third-party contracted employees to the ground, then shooting at them. Miraculously, they were struck by only shrapnel and managed to run away.
That suspect then ran again through the resort to a parking lot where he attempted to carjack another victim.
He was unsuccessful as a massive police response was on the way.
We heard a lot of emergency vehicles, an abnormal amount.
They had ambulances, probably if you would count them, probably at least 20 emergency vehicles.
Surveillance footage from nearby business CCTV Core showing police and SWAT vehicles pulling in while fire and medical personnel stopped to treat the 2 employees, loading them into ambulances and taking them to the hospital.
They are in stable condition.
Police moved in on the suspect, who they say was compliant as he was taken into custody. As the investigation continues and officials work to determine the motivation behind this rampage, they're thankful nobody else was hurt.
He ran into Tempe Diablo Stadium. There was no spring training game going on. We know that this resort is a resort where a lot of conferences are held. I know there are many people at this resort, so we're very thankful that this suspect didn't confront more people.
And Tempe police say they've actually been able to identify additional victims from the freeway, people who saw the suspect waving his gun in the air or who even had the gun pointed at them in their vehicle. But they are asking if you witnessed any of the events today to please contact Tempe police. We're live in Tempe tonight. Bianca Bono, 12 News.
Bianca, thanks. Arizona Secretary of State Adrian Fontes announced today that he is considering running for the District 7 seat in Congress. The seat became vacant following the death of longtime Arizona Congressman Raul Grijalva, who passed away last week. In a statement on social media, Fontes said he is strongly considering running for the seat, adding that he'll have more to say in the days ahead. He also said that right now is a time to remember and appreciate the life and legacy of the late congressman. Grijalva's funeral is scheduled for next week. We have details posted on our website, 12news.com.
Meanwhile, several Arizona Republicans held a town hall tonight that was branded as a way for people to hear from their elected officials. However, anyone who isn't Republican wasn't allowed inside. Representative Andy Biggs, Arizona Senate President Warren Peterson, and Maricopa County Sheriff Jerry Sheridan were all scheduled to speak at the event in Chandler. A flyer promoting the event even told people to bring a friend and a neighbor. We heard from several people who were turned away at the door because they weren't registered as Republicans.
I had signed up online and I got the thank you for signing up. And then I showed my ID, but my name wasn't on the list. And then they said, "We'll go to the other table." And then I went back to the other table and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you have to be a registered Republican."
It does not say a private event on the flyer. I have the flyer too on my phone. It does not say that at all.
So this led to crowds of protesters gathering outside of the event throughout the evening, rallying against Republican policies while demanding answers on why the event wasn't open to the public.
In Phoenix today, tax increases and massive budget cuts were on the agenda. City leaders voting to increase the sales tax to help mitigate some of those cuts. 12 News journalist Chase Golightly is here in studio. And Chase, if this hadn't passed, the city says they would have had to make several cuts to vital services.
Mark, we're talking cuts to fire, police, homeless solutions, and more. I spoke with the Phoenix Fire Union president who says lives would have been at risk if this didn't go through. Starting in July, your $4 cup of coffee will go up about 2 cents. That goes for pretty much anything you buy in Phoenix.
Passes 8-1.
The city council approved a sales tax increase Tuesday in response to the state legislature removing the rental tax and implementing a flat tax, putting a nearly $40 million hole in Phoenix's budget next year.
I don't agree with regressive taxes or sales tax for working class people, but in this case, I don't believe we have an option.
If this didn't go through, the city said major cuts would have to happen to city parks, libraries, homeless solutions, and public safety, with the Phoenix Police and Fire Department taking the brunt of it.
We're talking about losing firefighter jobs, police officer jobs if this doesn't go through.
Brian Willingham, the president of the United Phoenix Firefighters Association, says response times would also get longer without the increase, putting people's lives in danger.
Our fire department is one of the many vital services that working people rely on.
This is about legitimately serving the community in a responsible way and saving lives.
The city still plans on cutting the budget by $24 million, with nearly half of that amount coming from police and fire.
Anytime there's cuts, it's a concern for us.
But Willingham isn't too worried about it.
It's insignificant in the sense that it won't affect services to the community. It won't affect our response times.
He says training programs will be cut and there will be less money for emergency repairs, but this tax increase will alleviate those cuts.
It's long overdue.
Now, for that $24 million budget reduction, the city will make a final decision in May and will hold public meetings in the coming months to see what citizens have to say about this. Mark, Caribe.
All right, Chase, thank you. Arizona tribal leaders are calling on the Pentagon to restore military web pages that told the stories of Navajo code talkers. Those are the group of heroes who used the Navajo language as a secret code during World War II, playing a major role for U.S. forces. 12 News has learned that the Defense Department deleted the web pages telling their stories in an anti-DEI purge ordered by President Trump.
It hurts my heart to think that the two code talkers that are living and others if they are living and code talkers that served in other branches of the service are having to see the country that they fought for doing this.
This is something that hits close to home. This is something that needs to be rectified.
Navajo Nation President Boo Nyron said in a statement late today that the Defense Department agreed to restore the Code Talkers pages after he sent a letter requesting an explanation. However, the tribe hasn't been able to confirm if those pages are live again.
Tomorrow, Aaron Gunches will be executed by lethal injection. Back in 2007, he was convicted for the murder of Ted Price. This will be the first execution under Governor Hobbs and the first in Arizona since 2022. Troy Hayden has been chosen as a media witness to the execution. He joins us from the state prison in Florence tonight with more.
In a little under 12 hours, the execution of Aaron Gunches should be underway here behind me at Florence Prison. His victim was a man named Ted Price. Ted's sister Karen is traveling here to Arizona from out of state to witness the execution. But do family members who see these get closure? There are very few people who can answer that question. And one of them is a woman named Leslie James. Yeah, so this is where Dina's laid to rest here.
Yeah.
1978, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, I have to even stop and count. What was it, 47? 47 years now? And yet, you know, I remember that morning like it was yesterday.
That morning was the morning in 1978 when Leslie James learned her 21-year-old sister Dina had been murdered. Dina was in her last year at ASU, was full of life and promise.
She loved to travel, and she did a huge amount of that. In 21 years, she was able to do a lot of that. She was kind, really kind to everybody. You know, there wasn't a mean bone in her body.
Dina was raped and murdered in her Tempe apartment by a man named Clarence Dixon. He lived across the street from her. The murder went unsolved, though, for 20 years until the emergence of DNA technology finally connected Dixon to the crime. He wasn't hard to find. He was already serving a life sentence for a different sexual assault. Dixon was put to death for the crime on May 11th, 2022. Leslie was there to see it. Were you glad you attended the execution?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think if I hadn't, that would have been the only event in this whole process that I didn't carry it through.
Over the course of more than 40 years, Leslie was getting updates from detectives, dealing with unknowns, and then the trial and the conviction. She saw the execution as less vengeance and more relief.
I'm still feeling quite a bit like I did right after the execution, and that was like there's been a weight lifted, that no longer do I have to worry about court, what a court's going to do, or when a hearing's going to be, or what's going to happen next.
Even as Dixon was strapped down on the execution table, moments before his death, he taunted Leslie and said things about Dina.
You know, everyone deals with grief differently, and everyone has their own levels of forgiveness. So I just have my own views on that, and in my case, I could never have forgiven what he did.
Some victims' families say they attend executions for a sense of closure. But that's not something Leslie found in the death chamber that day.
There's never a closure. That doesn't bring anybody back. It doesn't affect what that person did. But at least you're done. You're done.
So again, this execution scheduled for 10 tomorrow morning here in Florence. I'm a media witness. I will be inside the execution chamber, and I'll have live reports beginning in the 6 o'clock hour of Today in AZ tomorrow morning. Reporting from Florence, Troy Hayden, 12 News.
All right, Troy, thank you.